Okay, so we're diving deep today into something a lot of you have been talking about, the 2024 Apple MacBook Air.
Yeah.
You've sent in tons of thoughts, questions, reviews, and we're going to unpack all that good stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Try to help you really understand this latest model, and especially if you know that new M4 chip is really a game changer for you or not.
Right, because there's so much buzz around it.
Exactly.
So we'll try to get to the bottom of that.
Yeah, and our goal here isn't just to list off specs and things that you can just, read on Apple's website,
Right.
but really to give you the insight so you can understand if this is the machine for you.
Yeah, and I think that's really important these days because there are so many different options out there, and specs only tell part of the story, right?
Exactly.
It's really about how it fits into your life
Totally.
and your workflow.
Yeah. So first impressions, design portability. This is something that everyone's always raving about with the MacBook Air.
Yeah, it's always been known for being thin and light.
They just keep pushing it further and further.
Yeah. It's kind of remarkable how they keep doing it.
Yeah, like how much thinner can it get? 11.3 millimeters for this one. It's got to be getting close to the limit.
Yeah, you're talking like the thickness of a couple of credit cards stacked on top of each other. It's crazy thin.
It's wild. So what does that actually mean, though, for people who are actually, using this on the go every day? What's the impact of that thinness?
Well, I think you hit the nail on the head there. It's really about that on-the-go lifestyle, right?
Yeah.
So if you're a student who's carrying this around campus all day,
Yeah.
or you're, a professional who's going from meeting to meeting, traveling a lot,
Yeah.
that thinness and lightness just makes it so much easier to carry around.
Totally.
It's less fatigue on your shoulders, less bulk in your bag.
So
it really becomes a seamless part of your mobile setup.
Yeah, for sure. Even just pulling it out of a bag, it's
Right.
a lot less awkward than some of these thicker, heavier laptops.
Exactly. And you don't feel like you're making a compromise, right? You're not
Right.
sacrificing power or performance just to have that portability.
Yeah. And they have a nice range of colors now, too, for those M3 models. There's silver space, gray, the starlight, which is kind of like a goldish,
Yeah.
and then midnight, which is like a very dark blue, almost black.
Almost black. Yeah.
But then they added a new color with the M4,
Oh, yeah. The sky blue.
which is...
It's really nice. It's a little bit more of a subtle difference,
Yeah.
than some of the other colors. But I think it's a nice option if you're looking for something a little different, a little bit unique.
Yeah, and maybe a little more, playful, a little
Mhm.
more casual.
Exactly.
All right, so now onto the display, because obviously that's a huge part of the experience.
Yeah, you're looking at it all day.
It's the 13.6-inch liquid Retina display,
Beautiful display.
2560 by 1664 resolution. You read all these things in the reviews. It's crisp details,
Mhm.
vibrant colors, deeper blacks, but what does that actually mean, when you're using it?
Well, I think that the crisp details, it comes down to the resolution and the pixel density.
Okay,
So the higher the resolution, the more pixels you have packed into that screen,
got it.
which means everything looks sharper.
Okay,
Text is easier to read. Images are clearer.
makes sense.
And that's really important, especially if you're spending a lot of time staring at a screen.
Yeah.
Whether you're reading documents, browsing the web, editing photos,
Yeah.
those fine details are going to be much more apparent.
Especially for those creative tasks, editing photos or videos.
Yeah, you can be able to see those details that you might miss on a lower resolution display.
Yeah, and so then there's the True Tone technology. What is that all about?
Ah, True Tone. That's a really cool feature.
Yeah, what is it doing?
So basically, it adjusts the color temperature of the display to match the ambient light around you.
Oh, that's cool.
So if you're in a room with warm lighting, the screen's going to have a warmer tone. If you're in a room with cooler lighting, it's going to have a cooler tone.
Yeah.
And it makes a really big difference in terms of eye strain.
Wow, so it's adapting to the environment so it doesn't feel so harsh?
Yeah, it feels more natural. It feels more like you're looking at a piece of paper
Interesting.
rather than a glowing screen.
Very cool. And they also have the 15-inch model now, too, if you need that extra screen real estate.
Right, if you're working on larger projects.
Exactly. Okay, so now lives into the brains of the operation, the M3 and M4 chips.
All right, let's talk performance.
This is where it gets really interesting because the M3 is already, a huge step up from previous generations.
Yeah, they're claiming like a 40% performance boost over the M1, which is crazy.
So, how does that actually manifest in real life for, everyday tasks?
Well, I think the biggest thing you're going to notice is just overall responsiveness.
Okay.
So apps are going to open faster. Switching between tasks is going to be smoother.
Yeah.
Even things like loading web pages are going to be noticeably quicker.
So it's just like that snappiness that like makes it feel so much more pleasant to use.
Exactly. It just
Mhm.
feels more fluid, and it's really important when you're trying to get things done.
Totally. And it's not just for like basic stuff, right? Like the M3 can even handle some photo editing, some video editing.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's surprisingly capable.
So like if you're someone who, dabbles in creating content, maybe you're not a professional, but you edit some videos, you edit some photos, is this enough power?
I think for most people who are doing casual content creation, the M3 is going to be more than enough.
Okay.
Yeah, it's going to be able to handle, editing 4K video, basic color correction, things like that.
So it's not like you have to go straight to the pro if you're doing,
Right.
just a little bit of that stuff.
Exactly.
Okay, now let's talk about the M4 because this is the big, what everyone's talking about.
Yeah, this is where it gets really exciting.
It's supposed to be an even bigger leap, specifically in graphics intensive applications and AI tasks.
Yeah, and I think that's really the key here is that it's not just about raw processing power.
Yeah.
It's about how that power is being used, and specifically with the M4, it seems like it's being used to accelerate tasks that leverage machine learning.
So that built for Apple Intelligence tagline they're using.
Right.
Like, what could that actually mean for how people use this?
Well, it can mean a lot of things.
Yeah.
I think we're just scratching the surface of what's possible with AI, and I think the M4 is kind of a glimpse into the future,
Yeah.
where we're going to see more and more AI-powered features
Okay.
built into our devices, and those features are going to be able to do things that we can't even imagine right now.
So, like, give me an example. Like, what kind of features could we see?
Well, I think one area where we're already seeing a lot of progress is in photo and video editing.
Okay.
So imagine being able to edit a video and have the AI automatically identify the best cuts, the best transitions,
Wow.
or being able to remove unwanted objects from a photo with just a few clicks.
That's wild.
And those are just the basic things.
Yeah.
As AI gets more sophisticated, we're going to see even more powerful features.
It's scary and exciting at the same time.
It is. It is.
Okay, so if you're someone who's doing more serious, video editing, working with bigger files, that M4 sounds like a really compelling option. But where does the Air with the M4 fit in compared to, like, the MacBook Pro?
That's a great question. And I think it really comes down to the level of performance that you need.
Okay.
So the M4 in the Air is incredibly powerful.
Yeah.
But the MacBook Pro is still the top of the line.
Right.
And it's designed for people who are doing really demanding work.
Yeah.
So if you're a professional video editor who's working with, multiple streams of 4K footage,
Yeah.
or you're a 3D artist who's rendering complex scenes,
Yeah.
the Pro is probably going to be a better choice.
Got it.
But for most people, the Air with the M4 is going to be more than enough.
Okay, so the Air is kind of hitting that sweet spot of power and portability.
Exactly.
All right, let's talk about another huge factor, battery life. Ah, yes.
The MacBook Air always gets great reviews for battery life.
Yeah, it's legendary.
With the M3, they're saying up to 18 hours. Like, what can people actually expect in real-world usage?
Well, I think it's important to remember that those official battery life estimates are always based on pretty ideal conditions. Low screen brightness, minimal background tasks,
Yeah.
things like that.
Right.
But in real-world usage, you can still expect to get incredibly long battery life from the MacBook Air.
Okay.
I mean, I've seen people get 15, 16 hours of mixed usage,
Wow.
which is still phenomenal.
That's like a full day of work.
Yeah, you can basically leave your charger at home.
Crazy. And speaking of charging, they brought back MagSafe, which a lot of people are really happy about.
Oh yeah, MagSafe is a great feature.
Yeah.
It's so much easier to connect and disconnect the charging cable.
I always love MagSafe.
And it's also a lot safer.
Yeah.
If you accidentally trip over the cord, it's just going to detach magnetically instead of yanking your laptop off the table. Yeah, those are always the worst. So what about connecting other devices? What are the options there?
So you've got a couple of Thunderbolt USB 4 ports,
Okay.
which are incredibly fast.
Mhm.
So you can transfer data to external drives really quickly. You could also connect to external displays.
Yeah.
And then there's still a headphone jack, which a lot of people appreciate.
Oh, they kept the headphone jack. Okay, some people are very passionate about that.
I know.
Okay, so that's good to know. And then with the M4, they actually upgraded the external display support too, right?
Yeah, that's a big one. So with the M4 models, you can actually connect up to 2 external displays.
Wow, that's huge.
Yeah, it's a game changer for people who like to work with multiple screens.
Especially if you're someone who's like, doing a lot of creative work or like coding or anything where you just need like a lot of space.
Absolutely.
Okay, let's talk about sound now, the audio, because it's always surprising to me how good the audio is on these like super thin devices.
Yeah, it's impressive how they do it.
The reviews mention impressive sound quality, spatial audio support. Like, how does it sound?
Well, they've actually got a 4-speaker system now,
Oh, wow.
which is pretty incredible for a laptop this thin.
Yeah,
And it supports Dolby Atmos, so you get a really immersive soundscape.
cool.
It's great for watching movies, listening to music, even just having video calls.
Okay, so like you're not going to feel like you need to immediately plug in external speakers.
Oh, not at all.
All right, let's talk about the software side now. macOS Sonoma.
All right.
What's the general consensus about using macOS on the new MacBook Air?
Well, I think the overall feeling is that macOS Sonoma is a really refined and polished operating system.
Okay.
It's very user-friendly, intuitive, easy to use,
Yeah,
especially if you're already familiar with Apple products.
makes sense.
And they've added some really nice features in Sonoma.
Okay, like what?
One of the biggest ones is the interactive widgets.
Oh, yeah, those are cool.
So you can put widgets right on your desktop to get quick access to information like whether your calendar, your to-do list.
I use those all the time on my phone.
Yeah. And it's a great way to just stay organized and have everything at your fingertips.
Okay, so it's bringing some of that, like, phone functionality to the desktop.
Exactly.
What else is new?
They've also improved multitasking with Stage Manager.
Oh, yeah, I've heard about that.
So it's a new way to organize your open windows, and it can be really helpful for people who are working on multiple projects at the same time.
Yeah, because I'm someone who always has like a million windows open, and then I'm like, where is that thing?
Oh, no, it's the worst.
So this is supposed to help with that.
Yeah, it helps you focus on the task at hand
Okay.
by kind of minimizing the distractions from all the other open apps.
So it's like decluttering your digital space.
Exactly.
Very cool.
And of course, you've got the tight integration with other Apple devices.
Yeah.
So you can seamlessly move between your iPhone, your iPad, your Mac.
It's like that whole ecosystem that just all works together, which is nice if you're already, invested in the Apple world.
And, they're always adding new features and updates to macOS.
Yeah.
So it's a constantly evolving operating system,
Cool.
which is great because it means you're always getting the latest and greatest.
Okay, so what about the keyboard and trackpad? Because that's like, the physical interface.
All right.
How do those feel?
Well, the Magic Keyboard is as good as ever.
Okay.
It's very comfortable to type on,
Mm-hmm.
very responsive. The keys have a nice amount of travel,
Okay.
and they're backlit so you can type in low light.
Yeah, that's essential.
And the trackpad is actually really interesting.
Yeah.
It's a force touch trackpad.
Okay, remind me what force touch is.
So unlike a traditional trackpad, which just detects clicks,
Yeah.
a force touch trackpad can actually sense the amount of pressure you apply.
Oh, wow.
So you can do different things depending on how hard you press.
Okay.
So for example, a light press might preview a file.
Okay.
A harder press might open it.
Oh, that's cool.
And it can be really useful for things like editing photos or videos
Mm-hmm.
because you can use the pressure sensitivity to control the brush size or the editing tool.
That's really interesting. I like that.
Yeah, it's a really nice feature.
All right, so with all these features, all these improvements, who is this laptop for? Like, who is the 2024 MacBook Air best suited for?
Well, I think it's a great laptop for a wide range of people.
Okay.
I mean, obviously, students are going to love it
Yeah.
because it's so portable. It has such great battery life.
Perfect for like taking notes in class and stuff.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But it's also a great laptop for professionals.
Okay.
If you're a writer, if you're a programmer,
Yeah.
if you're doing any kind of work that requires a lot of typing,
Yeah.
the Magic Keyboard is a joy to use.
And it's not going to weigh you down if you're carrying it around all day.
Exactly.
Yeah. And then what about for like creative professionals?
Yeah, I think the M3 and the M4 are really going to appeal to creative professionals.
Okay.
If you're editing photos, if you're editing videos,
Yeah.
if you're doing any kind of graphic design work,
Yeah.
these chips are going to be able to handle it.
So they're not going to feel limited by, the power of the Air.
Exactly.
Okay, cool. And you mentioned earlier that the Pro might be better for some people. Just to kind of recap, who should maybe go for the Pro instead?
Yeah, so I think if you're doing really, really demanding work,
Okay.
like professional level video editing,
Yeah.
3D rendering,
Yeah.
things like that,
Okay.
the Pro is probably going to be a better choice.
Okay.
It just has more power, more memory,
Mhm.
a better cooling system.
Yeah, it's really built for like those, power users.
Exactly.
Okay. All right, so let's wrap up here. What are the key takeaways? What should people be thinking about if they're considering the 2024 MacBook Air?
Well, I think the biggest takeaway is that the MacBook Air is still the king of ultra-portable laptops.
Yeah.
I mean, it's incredibly thin, it's incredibly light, it has amazing battery life.
Yeah.
And now with the M4 chip, it's more powerful than ever.
It really does seem like they've kind of hit that sweet spot of, portability and performance.
Yeah, it's a really impressive machine.
Are there any like downsides or things that people should be aware of?
Well, I think the one thing to keep in mind is that the base model comes with a relatively small amount of storage
Okay.
and RAM.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're planning on doing a lot of, heavy work or storing a lot of files,
Yeah.
you might want to consider upgrading those specs.
And obviously that's going to add to the price.
Exactly.
So it's just something to keep in mind when you're, making that decision.
Right.
Okay, well, it sounds like a really fantastic machine overall, and thanks so much for breaking it all down for us.
My pleasure.
And for you, our listener, something to ponder with these, M chips getting more and more powerful. What do you think the future holds for these ultra portable laptops? Like, could they eventually replace like full-blown workstations for a lot of people?
That's a great question.
Yeah, it's really making me rethink what's possible.
It is exciting times.
It really is.
Who knows what we'll be able to do with these things in a few years.
Thanks for listening to The Deep Dive.
See ya.
Catch you next time.